Yeah, I know you want that chest that jiggles whenever you walk. When I was a beginner and trying to grow my chest, I flocked to instantly doing a ton of volume, or whatever new fad was being preached on fitness social media. Picture yourself as a beginner who doesn't know anything. How could you not want to do some crazy workout that Arnold told you to do and feel like a god afterward because you just lobotomized your chest? I mean, Arnold won several Olympia, so this must work for you too, right? I also did a ton of the weird chest movements that were supposed to be more optimal for hitting certain regions of the chest, because apparently there were like 5 different areas I had to worry about. I must do the coffin presses in order to really build the inner chest. I have to do the dumbbell pullovers to literally expand my ribcage, and then I must do the high to low cable fly to isolate the lower chest. All this effort just to have a sub 135 pound bench and a chest that was probably concave. Eventually, however, I went out of my way to fix my training. I knew deep down this slow ass chest growth for this much effort wasn't what I needed to be doing. What grew my chest the most wasn't a shit ton of volume, but simple effective things. A few key exercises, a few key principles I follow like the Bible, and fixing my ass technique. With this, I literally went up a bra size, and I know you can too. So what even makes up the chest? The chest is actually made up of 2 heads, which is contrary to the popular belief that the chest is made up of the upper, middle, and lower chest. In reality, there is only the clavicular head, aka the upper chest, and the sternocostal head, aka the middle and lower chest. One main function of the chest is to perform shoulder adduction, where put simply, your elbows are brought closer together via rotation of your upper arm in sort of an arcing motion. The other main function of the chest is shoulder flexion, where your upper arm is being raised out in front of you in a raising motion. Let's say I am wrong and I'm stupid and an idiot and stupid, and the chest does actually include a lower portion. You've probably heard the abdominal head being the lower part of the chest. I haven't seen it mentioned at all outside of bodybuilding.com type websites, but either way, you cannot isolate this part of the chest. You can only isolate between the sternocostal and the clavicular head, so we need to choose exercises for both of these heads rather than for all 3. This also means a majority of those weird influencer exercises are pointless because you cannot directly isolate between the inner and outer chest. An inner and outer chest simply just do not exist. In terms of how you target between the two, look at the chest and how the fibers are aligned. If you want to bias a certain head of the chest, you want to perform shoulder adduction in alignment to that specific head. For example, with the sternal head, its fibers are aligned in a more middle to downward direction, so movements where you're doing adduction angle downward or in the middle will target it best. Same principle will apply with the upper chest. As you perform adduction to a higher angle, the motion will align better with the upper chest. However, the higher up you angle the motion of your presses, the more you also involve shoulder flexion, which involves more of the front delt. At a certain point, the front delt is going to be doing most of the work, so we gotta make sure to limit the amount of shoulder flexion you involve. So how about the exercises? These 2 should be your must-do. Bench press for overall chest development, and an incline bench for your upper chest emphasis. The last exercise should be some accessory you enjoy performing. It could be dips, push-ups, low to high cable flies, pec decks, etc. Why are these exercises so effective? The bench press is a time-tested lift that targets the chest very well if you aren't performing the exercise like a dumb idiot. It requires the rest of your body to be locked in and stable while your pushing muscles do the work, allowing you to push large loads. There's nothing inherently special about how this exercise targets the chest. What makes it so good is its potential for loading up, while still providing a lot of tension to your chest under a good range of motion. The barbell version at least, you can add weight to much faster than most upper body exercises. It's up there with the squat and deadlift. If you are not doing at least a variation of this exercise for the chest, you are literally reducing your bra size as you watch this video. I recommend every beginner do a barbell bench press and master it as their main chest strength movement. An incline press is another time-tested lift with pretty much all the benefits of the bench press, except with more upper chest emphasis. Here I'll leave a bit more room to decide on which type of incline press suits you, since you should already have your barbell bench press as your staple exercise to get stronger on. You should also pick loadable movements though. They just won't progress as fast. You can use dumbbells, barbells, Smith machines, other machines, etc. When setting up for this exercise, make sure that the incline isn't too high. I would say 45 degrees is the max you should be doing if you want to maximize upper chest growth. 30 degrees is a good sweet spot, but some gyms literally have this setting missing. I'm not sure why, but it is what it is. If you are using dumbbells, you can experiment with a more underhand grip, since that allows you to get a huge range of motion while also keeping your shoulders in a safer position. You can also experiment with a decline push-up altogether rather than an incline press if you just hate the movement like I do. To load it up, I recommend using a sturdy backpack. If you want to use a weight belt, you're gonna have to make much more of an elaborate setup. It's not that crazy. I'm used to putting a bunch of 45s at the end of my bench to set up leg extensions, but you may not have the time or equipment to do all that. Since the last exercise is mostly up to you, there isn't really much I can say about it, since you already have the 2 stable movements for chest growth. As long as you pick a solid chest exercise here, you will grow very well. Here I would recommend leaning towards machines, since they usually provide the greatest range of motion and tension on the chest. Things like cable flies, pec decks, etc. If you're still a bit stumped, I'll tell you what I've been running for a bit. Flat bench press as my bread and butter strength movement, decline weighted push-ups for more upper chest, and dips because I like the exercise. Nothing overly complicated. Just pick movements and go, man. What matters more than the exercise is something I will go into detail on later in the video. Without it, literally nothing else in this video matters for chest growth. This training for your chest can carry you all the way through the beginner stage up to intermediate, where you may want more variation, but for now, make the basics work. Before I move on, I would also like to touch base on rotator cuff work. You should have a rotator cuff exercise for injury prevention. It's not going to do much for chest growth in the moment since it doesn't target your chest at all, but what it does do is keep your shoulders much healthier so you can reap the benefits of your presses without... So we have the exercises, but I know if I just leave you to go, you might be butchering your technique, so let's get that shit fixed. One universal principle you can apply to all of your chest exercises is utilizing the stretch. You should already know that each rep you perform in the gym can be split up into two parts, the concentric and the eccentric. The eccentric is where you are lowering the weight and allowing the target muscles to lengthen under the load. This is also where you experience most of the muscle growth. Why? Stretch mediated hypertrophy. Essentially, the more stretch under load you can generate onto a muscle per rep, the more muscle growth you can get out of each rep. The muscles can sense how much they are being loaded and how much they are being lengthened, which can signal to your body to build more muscle there. For us in targeting the chest, this means that the best exercises are the ones that have a great range of motion where the chest can really be stretched at the bottom, and that also puts the most load on the chest at the bottom. Movements like bench presses, push-ups, flies, and dips already follow this pattern due to the biomechanics of upper body pushing movements, so what we can control is how much range of motion we use. Always use a full range of motion on every exercise if you don't have any injuries. However, don't overextend it too much to where it's really uncomfortable. It's like how going too deep on a squat for most people will just lead to technique breakdown. You want to find the most range of motion you can do with good form and stability. Now on to more specific techniques. Let's start with the barbell bench press. You should have a moderate arch. Too high and you cut the range of motion, which is bad for chest growth, and you just look silly. Too low and you're in a less stable position to press from. When creating an arch, it's commonly taught to squeeze your shoulder blades together and push your shoulder blades down at the same time. I hate that this is such a common cue because it can actually lead to impingement or movement dysfunction. It's awful for your shoulders and scapula. Instead, just focus on keeping your shoulder blades down, not pulled back. This should allow your scapula to actually move how it was designed, to follow your arms. I used to pull my shoulder blades back and it's led to shoulder issues, which have felt much better since changing this up. Next, your feet must be planted the entire time you lift. Even if it's just the toes making contact, do not let your feet come off the ground or else you risk failing the movement or worse. Having your feet on the ground ensures your lower body is stable. The bar should make contact with you every time you do a rep. Never stop halfway or anything like that, unless you have a legitimate injury preventing you from doing so. Not using a full range of motion also increases injury risk because now you run the risk of overshooting the range of motion. If you've been doing half reps on bench press with 185 and then decide to go up in weight to 205 but accidentally lower the bar too low, then you're probably going to exit the gym in a stretcher. Last thing I want to talk about is the bar path. The bar should ascend in a curve to touch your sternum. This will also lead to less elbow flare, which is better for your shoulders. However, on the concentric, I would actually advise you to cue flaring your elbows back to where you almost make a T shape with your torso and arms. Isn't that bad for your shoulders? Shouldn't you press with your elbows tucked? If you work on your mobility and do compound shoulder movements, your shoulders will be fine and get used to this style of pressing, and it's not the same as constantly flaring your elbows out. In this case, you are tucking your elbows first, which lets the bar end up higher at the bottom. So once you get into an elbow flare, the bar will be high enough that it's a much less risky position than if you were to have an elbow flare the entire time. The reason for flaring your elbows is to allow for the most efficient movement to press the weight in, which also aligns it better with your chest. When doing this, your concentric bar path should look something like this, more of a J. Most people's bar path looks something like this, which is ineffective and becomes very uncommon the more experienced benchers you see. These tweaks will allow you to efficiently and safely use the most load in your presses, leading to more growth. Alright, lastly we'll talk about form for flies, since they look really simple but have some nuances to them. Firstly, you should be keeping at least a moderate bend in your elbows, or else your biceps might end up too stimulated. However, do not keep this bend for the entire rep. You should start and end the movement with straight arms, as that results in the greatest contraction on the chest, since your elbows can come together much more. Lastly, you should also make sure that if you use cables, to align the cables properly with your arms, otherwise you're going to be wasting energy activating other muscle groups in order to stabilize the awkward cable angle. I wouldn't recommend doing this exercise altogether if all you have is access to dumbbells. Its cable counterpart is far superior and smoother to execute. You could instead be doing something like dips, another push-up variation, or pec decks. Alright, I went on a whole thing about the anatomy of the chest, how to target it, and what exercises to do, but all that means nothing if you are not doing this one thing, and that is... what separates the guys with One Piece girls' chest from those motherfuckers with Kansas chests. The guys with huge chests can bench press more weight a majority of the time than those with small chests. Even if it's not always the case, the you with the bigger chest will bench press much more weight than the you currently. Here I will cover 2 basic progressions for getting stronger that will work, especially if you're a beginner. 1. Rep ranges. This is usually shown as start reps to end reps, so like 8 to 10, 8 to 12, 5 to 10, etc. The idea is that you pick a weight for an exercise which you can only do for the start reps of the rep range, like starting with 8 reps of 8 to 12. Then every following training session for that exercise, you try to do 1 more rep until you can do the end reps of that range. Once you can perform 12 reps on the first 2 sets, then the next step is to just add 5 to 10 pounds so you are only able to do the start reps. And now you just have to repeat this cycle over and over. It's that simple. This progression is slower, so it's good for anything that isn't dips or your barbell presses. 2. Linear progression. Choose a weight you can do for the target reps, let's say 5 reps. Every following session for that exercise, you simply just add a set weight jump to it like 5 pounds and do it for the target reps, and then repeat. This can only really be done for your dips and barbell presses since they progress much faster than all the other movements. This should work until around a 185 to 225 pound bench for most guys. And that's about it for progression. Without the intent to get just a little bit stronger each session, your chest or any other muscle for that matter will not grow optimally. None of my previous tips will matter in the grand scheme of things if you are not trying to progress and get stronger. So now you got all things covered chest training wise. However, there's still a big problem. The chest is only one muscle group, and training is still only 1/3 of the way towards getting results. Even the best chest workout in the world won't save you if your recovery is shit. It's what you do outside of training that gets you the growth you want. Training is what breaks you down. You also have to make sure your training is right, not too much volume and the right amount of intensity to see progress in your lifts. So yeah, go off and research on your own. Go watch endless YouTube videos on lifting. I mean, I upload these videos to help steer people in the right direction. Go try and test things out for months at a time, not even knowing if what you're doing is gonna work. There's a good chance it won't. What do you expect? You're a beginner with not much experience or background information. Plus, everybody's situation is different. We all have our different limitations. Some people can't even get gym memberships. Nobody can cover every possible case in any regular fitness content that you can find. And I still see many of you have questions in the comments, man. You and I both know just watching videos won't be able to answer everything. You'll have to get lucky with what you decide to stick to and hope your common sense can save you. But it doesn't have to be that way, man. If you enjoy the content I put out, I can help you directly if you subscribe to my only bars. Yes, it's an OnlyFans parody. I can literally be right there telling you exactly what to do and make shit as simple as possible. If you like the sound of that, go check out the first link in the description. If you don't, that's alright, man. You can always join the free community Discord if you still want to interact with me and other random fitness enjoyers. I'm pretty active there. Anyways, that is all the yapping I have for you today, brother. I would also recommend learning how to effectively train your back. It's one of those muscle groups that are much more complicated than something simpler like training biceps or chest due to its size and the amount of muscles that need to be hit. A good front is nothing without a nice demon back to go along with it. So I got just a video for that right here. Well, what are you waiting for? Go start working and take action. You can like and subscribe if you'd like, and I hope you have a great day.